Great. Is everybody ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome to the Elkhorn City Council meeting. We continue to hold meetings remotely while the governor's executive order continues to be in effect due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to remind our citizens they can submit questions for items on today's agenda as we did in the previous meetings. I encourage that public comments be submitted at this time. They will be read at the appropriate time during this meeting. Comments will be accepted up to the conclusion of the vote of the item. Comments may be submitted through the City of El Cajon's website, that's cityofElcajon.us, under Agendas and Minutes. Go to video streaming and you'll see a button to submit your comments. The meeting is now called to order, and I'd like to ask for the city clerk to call the roll.
Yes, gentlemen, when I call on your name, if you can please state that you are present and you can hear us. Mayor Wells.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
I'm here.
Council Member Goebel.
Here.
Council Member Kendrick.
Here.
And Council Member McClellan.
Here.
Thank you, sir.
Would you all say the Pledge of Allegiance to me, please, and then wait for a moment of silence? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the August 11th, 2020 meeting and the agenda of the September 8th, 2020 meeting in accordance with state law, council, and housing authority policy. We have two presentations on today's agenda. The first is a proclamation for National Preparedness Month. I will read the proclamation and then invite Chief Swaney to say a few words. National Preparedness Month creates an opportunity for every resident and business of the City of El Cajon to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of emergency, including earthquakes, severe storms, pandemics, and fires. Right now, California is experiencing extreme fire conditions and weather events, which highlight the importance of disaster preparedness. All residents of the City of El Cajon are encouraged to participate in the citizen preparedness activities and asked to review the Ready campaign's website at www.ready.gov or the Heartland Fire website at heartlandfire.org to help become more prepared. Now, therefore, I, Bill Wells, Mayor of the City of El Cajon, together with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2020 to be the National Preparedness Month in the City of El Cajon. We urge all residents and businesses to develop their own emergency preparedness plans and to work together toward creating a more prepared society. Chief Swaney, are you there?
Yes.
Well, that's not working, is it? Chief, I don't know what's going on, but we can't hear you.
Looks like he's muted.
Yeah. I tell you, we'll go ahead and move on to the next proclamation, and then if we can get the chief's audio fixed, we'll bring him back, okay? Next, I'd like to invite Director of Recreation Frank Carson to tell us about 92020 Day. Frank, you there?
Me unmute myself. Yes, I am here, Mayor. I also want to invite Parks and Recreation Manager Shannon J. Bullock to assist with this presentation today. Give me a second so I can get it up on our screen here.
Can you hear me, Mayor Wells? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Mayor Wells?
Yes, I can hear you now. Frank, go ahead.
Okay. Give me a second. We can get this going. Okay. Hopefully you all see this. It looks like you do. And all right. So we do have a one-time special event coming to the city of El Cajon, and it will be on Sunday, September 20th, called 92020 Day. It is not only matching our zip code, but also the date is something a little unique for us here in El Cajon, and we're pretty excited about. I will be inviting Shannon Bullock, our Parks and Recreation Manager, in just a moment to this item. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. So we're really looking at this now as a city beautification day. We're going to have no more than teams of 10. It could even be smaller groupings depending on physical distancing requirements at the time. All volunteers will not only receive a really cool volunteer shirt for the day, but they'll also get a swag bag thanks to our sponsor, Waste Management. We'll have 2 different shifts, and I know these are short shifts, but we just don't know about the temperature on the day, so we want to limit the amount of time, and it will be high impact for the 2 hours. So one shift will be 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and another shift will be 12 to 2 p.m. We are looking at having up to 200 volunteers. We can go beyond that capacity, but we expect about 200 volunteers. You can actually register at cityofelcajon.us/92020. I'm going to turn the presentation over briefly to Shannon Bullock now, and she's going to talk about some examples of our projects that we will be doing.
Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon, everyone. Some of the examples for 92020 Day to help beautify our city will be graffiti removal, since we do have a lot of graffiti within the city, litter removal, painting, weeding, mulching, which will include some of City Hall, and some interactive wayfinding signage. You can see the example on the screen. Some of the signage will be for miles, so people can walk 1 mile, 2 mile, and it will show them the distance and direction. The other one will be for different locations throughout the city. And there'll be a QR code, which people can scan, and then it will direct them to a website that we have in the city that will include the maps. For Wells Park, we are going to do a beautification project to welcome people to Wells Park. Last couple of weeks, we painted the building for Wells Center, and we will include a muralist that's local to El Cajon that will paint a welcome signage as people are driving into the city. So this is an example of the signage. And then we have worked with the U.S. Post Office to do a stamp on using our logo for 92020 Day. That when people mail, they'll have their stamp with our logo on it for the day to celebrate.
And we do definitely want to thank our sponsor, Waste Management, for sponsoring this event. This is our second attempt at an event this year since COVID-19 started. Our first one obviously was July 4th, which Waste Management sponsored also, and they're graciously sponsoring this event as a community cleanup. We're pretty excited about this just because some of the very unique features that we will be doing this year.
I love your hat, okay.
And that concludes my presentation, Mayor. And let me know if you have any questions.
Council, any questions for Frank?
No, thank you.
Well, Frank, thanks very much. Did we ever get Chief Swaney back, or is his audio just not working?
Mayor, I think the chief is having internet connectivity problems. I'm communicating with him on text, and he just doesn't have a very good connection.
We'll catch him next week. Okay, thanks, Frank. And next is agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No changes, Mayor.
Council members, any agenda changes?
No.
Okay. We're at consent items now. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any consent items?
Yes, I do. I'd like to pull items 6 and item 7.
Okay. Let's take those for any other council members want to pull consent items? Okay, great. Then let's talk about item 6. Let's start with that one.
Item 6, this is just a question that I had for Graham, and he answered it for me, but I thought it's something we all should know. It's a $332,000 spending decision, and my question to him was, is this the right time to move forward with this bond thing, given the COVID situation. He assured me that it is a good time and that we don't really incur the $332,000 until we actually sell the bonds. Clay, I see you're online. Is that an accurate recollection of what I'm hearing from Graham?
Yes, sir, more or less. In the interviews with our potential vendors, they specifically discussed timing and some of the issues involved with that. Right now, this is kind of an administrative function to get our
Mayor and Council, I can complete the answer. I was on the interview panel with Clay, and what he was saying is that all of the participants had different views about whether before the election, after the election, and what this item is an administrative item to make sure that we have everything in order. We look at we listen to what our financial advisor says and what the Bank of America bond people say, and take advantage of the most advantageous time possible. And when that time comes, we will have everything prepared and we will be ready to go. So there are different opinions as to whether going before the election or after the election or when exactly we should go. But once we get through this step, we'll have people looking at that, and we'll go when the bond market is most advantageous to us.
I assume I consume our consultants that we hired have a strong opinion about this.
That's correct. He was, our financial advisor was also the third member of the interview team, along with myself and Mr. Shane.
Okay.
And that was my question was, we're only 60 days away from an election, and was this the right time to do anything? And I think I've received some comfort from city staff.
Okay. We'll vote then on each of the pulled items before we move on. Steve, you pulled the item. Are you willing to make a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 6.
Okay, I'll second that.
Mayor Welser vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick.
Yes.
Council Member McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Let's move on to 7.
Item 7 is the U.S. Soccer Foundation grant. It looks like a great project, but one of the things I think the public is interested in is how long is the term of the contract whenever we get funds or something. I noticed that as part of the contract, the U.S. Soccer Foundation, I believe, has up to 20 weeks per year, 3 days per week, preferred use of the park, but it doesn't say for how long, for how many years. So I don't know if staff has an answer to that.
So it's 10 years, and we don't use necessarily the U.S. Soccer Foundation's program. We have our rec squad out there, and what we're currently doing with the rec squad matches that very well. So we can utilize exactly what the rec squad is doing, but also generic after-school programming. But it's a 10-year program, and more or less what they're expecting from us is that we provide after-school hours access for free for all ages, type of thing.
So, Mr. Foley, I did not see that in the grant. Can you ensure that that 10-year term is in that contract?
I'm looking for it now, Councilmember Goebel, and let's see if we can find that answer.
Give me a moment. So I believe it's in number 5.
Yeah, 5A talks about the 20 weeks per year, 3 days per week.
And then letter D. It talks about the 10 years in length.
An appropriate long-term lease shall mean a lease of at least 10 years in length following the effective date. So,
I'm not sure that exactly means that, Mr. Carson. I think that means that we are in possession by a lease that's no shorter than 10 years. And I did not negotiate with the U.S. Soccer, so I'll leave to Mr. Carson if there's been discussion of a time period or a term on this on this agreement.
We had discussed it not only about the programming, Councilmember Global, but also the timeline, and they said that idyllic would be 10 years.
We could add that to the agreement just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve item 7 with the amendment that the contract term be explicitly have a term of 10 years.
Sir, before we vote on that, we do have a comment from the public for item 7.
Thanks.
Thank you. And this comment comes from Stephanie Harper, and she writes, I am so happy to hear that we are taking a step in the right direction with Wells Park. There has been over $1 million budgeted out for this project between the 2017, 2018, and 2018-2019 budgets. There were CDBG funds which, if not used, need to be used for another qualifying CDBG project or put back. Normally, I believe there is an item placed on agenda for where these funds are going to go. As it stands, there is so much more that needs to be done there. There is only 3 picnic tables. Playground never got resurfaced. We need a splash pad for our little ones on days like this past weekend. And the worst of all are the bathrooms. This item is great, and I hope it all works out. So let's make sure it is up to par for when the area does open. End of comment.
Thanks.
I do want to note that another provision of the agreement provides that we are to provide reports to the foundation for 5 years. So I don't know whether the intent was a 5-year agreement, because after that we no longer have the obligation to file reports.
Well, I guess I'm back to Mr. Carson's talks with the foundation were for a 10-year term. I'm good with a 10-year term.
Okay.
So my motion stands.
I'll second that.
Mayor Welzer vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
And Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Angela, are there any public comments on the rest of the agenda items?
Not for consent, sir.
Yeah, consent items is what I meant to say. I'll make a motion to approve the remaining consent items.
Second.
Mayor Welzer vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments related to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, did you receive any comments for public comment?
I did, sir, and the same person submitted a comment under Mr. McClellan's items or reports, but it's the same comment, so I'm going to read it through public comment, which is the first one she submitted. It's from Natalie, and it reads, it's highly inappropriate for a council member, Mr. Walter McClellan, to be wearing a political hat during a public meeting. This isn't the first time he's worn this hat. These public meetings should not be used to further a council member's personal political views. Not only is this troublesome, it's likely a violation of ethical standards for a sitting council member. I request that you please comment on the City Council's stance when it comes to using public office to further one's own political agenda. End of comment.
What's your read on that, Morgan?
Well, I think the situation is the same as if you were here at City Hall campaigning on city time. So I tend to agree that you should take it off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Gary.
Okay. Are there more public comments?
No more comments, sir.
Okay. There are no written communications on today's agenda. We are now at public hearings. We have two items to consider. Item 15 is regarding the personal self-storage facility, and I would like to ask staff to tell us about this.
Good afternoon. Let me share my screen. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. The first item for your consideration is the Storage District, a personal storage facility on East Main Street. It was submitted by Sorcerers Incorporated by Nancy Bain. Move on here. So this is, again, for a personal storage facility. It would be up to 4 stories in height over a basement, total of 123,800 gross square feet. The proposal also includes a 2,000 square foot business service center, which has, kind of the basic functions as a coffee center, shipping center, and also the offices for the self-storage facility itself. There's also other private and public improvements proposed, such as new driveway entries, parking lot, and new landscaping. And so to cover the basics in regard to land use, the general plan designation for the site is general commercial. It has a matching zoning designation of general commercial. And this project is a specific plan, which is required for projects that propose a greater height than the underlying zone allows for. In this case, the underlying zone allows for a 35-foot building height, and the proposal is up to 50 feet in height for a focal entryway. And so here you can see the aerial image of that site. It's just to the east of 2nd Street at the intersections of Walter Way, Melody, and East Main Street. As you can also tell, it's currently operated as a used car lot. And I'll move on to the next slide here. So the project site is approximately 1.3 acres, 57,000 square feet. Again, currently operating as a used auto dealership, which does have a couple code compliance issues presently, which staff are addressing through code compliance. The adjacent uses to the site are a mobile home park, trailer park, and then some miscellaneous commercial uses. And unfortunately, the surrounding area, especially right at that intersection, does experience some high business turnover, and there hasn't really been any new projects in that vicinity for quite a while. So this is hopefully going to spur some new development. The project design, it's basically designed to simulate a 1940s industrial building, and there's a variety of different materials proposed to kind of create that effect. They're proposing some black CMU walls with, let's see here, brick veneer, yellow metal paneling, some heavy black trim, and then a clear story like you see on a lot of the new self-storage facilities as well. And since it is quite a large structure, obviously the materials are placed and situated so that they break up the wall planes and kind of reduce the massing of that structure. Like I mentioned previously, there is a 50-foot focal entry point, kind of where the business service office would be, but the majority of the structure is 46 foot to the top of the parapet. And so to kind of give you a better picture of that, here are the project elevations. As you can see here, that would be the business service office on the ground floor, the taller 50-foot parapet, and then the rest of the structure, again, would be a 46 foot to the top of the parapet. You'll also note in the elevations that it is 4 stories, but it appears to be like a taller 3-story structure, and that's due to the layout of the windows and the placement of the exterior materials. And then here on the site plan, there's a couple things I wanted to point out. So this project actually exceeds the parking requirement for this type of facility. Typically speaking, this facility would require 10 parking spaces per our zoning code. They're proposing 25, including 13 public parking spaces for the use of that office space, and then 9 spaces to access exterior units, and 3 oversized parking spaces underneath the structure, or tucked into the structure for oversized vehicles. And then here's a photo simulation of the project. Another feature here is this elevated retention basin at the frontage along Main Street to buffer the project from East Main Street. And in regard to height and compatibility, since this is a taller structure, we wanted to discuss, if we view this as compatible. Given the scale of the public right-of-way, East Main Street is over 100 feet, or actually exactly 100 feet right-of-way width in front of this location. The building scale is not anticipated to be, overshadowing the street. And then again, in regards to the massing and design, the placement of materials and the kind of look as a 3-story structure rather than 4 does help with the massing and the scale of the structure. Other structures in the vicinity, are lower scale commercial, but there are some taller structures across the street, across East Main, such as the hotel, the Best Western, and the structure directly adjacent to that. And in regards to the recommendation, Planning Commission on 8/18/2020 recommended City Council approval 5-0, and their findings were essentially that this provides a community-wide service, that it's a unique design, that the business center would support small and home businesses, providing them an option to both have storage and ship or mail from the same facility, and that the site is in an area in need of some redevelopment and attention. There were also 11 public comments received in support. 9 of them were written in, and 2 were received during the Planning Commission meeting. And so the recommendation is that City Council move to adopt the next resolution in order, approving the CEQA exemption, and move to adopt the next resolution in order, approving specific plan number 2020-0001 for the storage district. And with that, staff are available to answer any questions.
Great. Council, have any questions for staff?
This is kind of off the cuff, but the property next to this proposed property is a vacant, I think, Coco's old restaurant. Do we know what's going to be going there, or if there's any plans for that property, Spencer, or anyone?
As far as I'm aware, there's no proposals at this point.
Thank you.
My question's about sales tax. If in the past when we've had car sales there, how much would an average sales tax year bring into the city?
I'm not certain of that. Maybe if Tony could chime in.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Most of our high-end sales tax generators are the new car dealerships, the Honda to Toyota, Mercedes, etc. Most of our used car sales tax are rather low, and this site here wasn't generating a significant amount of sales tax. We think that the investment here, in terms of the amount of work that will be done, the generation of building permits, and the enhanced property tax values will more than outweigh the sales tax was generated by that used car dealership.
Okay, well, that's that, and the fact that at some point we were going to have too many storage facilities in one town.
I think, Mr. Mayor, you do bring up a good point. I think what the staff has done here is identify an area of town that's in need of investment, and as well has supported storage facilities dispersed across the city rather well. They are not concentrated in particular neighborhoods.
Okay. Other comments from the council?
So I think it's a nice looking facility. I think it'll add a lot of sales or property tax to the tax rolls.
I agree.
Bill, I see this as a high-end storage facility. Since it's multi-story and with a basement, it's really a great highest and best use for that piece of property. And it's a beautiful looking building, especially since it's a storage building. It's one of the best I've ever seen. So
I'm glad to hear you say that. You definitely are a real estate expert on the council. Thank you.
You know, I always hope to have great retail businesses along a street called Main Street. But the reality is we haven't had that kind of activity over in that part of town for quite a while. In fact, Coco's, has went dark a couple of years ago. I tend to agree with the mayor that we really need to start looking at the concentration of certain types of businesses in town, convalescent homes, thrift stores, storage units, so that we don't become over-concentrated with certain types of businesses. But this is indeed a very good-looking project. It's certainly appropriate for the neighborhood, as Spencer commented about the Best Western height and the what is now the new Hyundai dealership height. It's consistent with the neighborhood, so I thank the people for their investment in El Cajon.
All right, if nobody else has any comments right now, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and see what the public has to say.
We have no comments, sir.
Oh, well, then I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Mayor Welter vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Unanimous vote, please. Sorry.
Okay. Sounds like everybody likes this project. Somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to adopt the next resolution in order approving the CEQA exemption and adopt the next resolution in order approving specific plan number 2020-0001.
Second.
Mayor Welter vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
And Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you, Angela. Item 16 is regarding Appendix O of the 2019 California Building Code. I'll ask staff to introduce this item.
Good afternoon, again, Mayor and Council. So this public hearing and second reading of an ordinance to adopt by reference, a little different from what you typically do. If the council recalls, back on August 11th is when you introduced two ordinances to amend Title 17 and amend Title 15 to allow for emergency housing on select properties. So with this action, the public hearing is today for the adoption of the adoption of the proposed ordinance to adopt by reference Appendix O and incorporate it into a reference of the 2019 California Building Code. So simply the staff asks that you open the public hearing, receive any testimony, and then close the public hearing, and then again adopt by reference Appendix O of the 2019 California Building Code, and then ask the city clerk to recite the title of that ordinance. And staff is available to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. Council, any questions?
No.
All right, Angela, do we have any speaker cards? And I'd like to open the public hearing.
Yes, sir. We have 21 common cards. The first one is from Jeffrey Gilberthand, and he is urging you to vote yes on item 16 regarding the amendments to allow emergency housing and emergency sleeping cabins in the city of El Cajon. We want to see an emergency housing pilot program at Meridian Baptist Church, a safe location with extra space and supportive services online. I care deeply about our community and those who reside here. We have a problem with homelessness in our city that is not being addressed. As a community, we need to start working to get our homeless residents off the street, starting with our city's most vulnerable population, homeless women and children. Please represent my opinion when you cast your vote on Tuesday and vote yes. I appreciate your support and compassion in helping those who truly need it. Next comment is from Lisa Cogan, and it says, Dear council members, my name is Lisa Cogan, and I am the treasurer of Amicus. I am urging you to vote yes regarding agenda item 16 to allow the emergency housing pilot program at Meridian's Church. While we wait for much needed permanent supportive housing, people are dying on the streets. Our innovative solution is an immediate and temporary option that can help with our homeless crisis in the city. With San Diego County having the 5th largest homeless population in the U.S., we have no time to wait and must think outside the box to get our most vulnerable homeless women and children off the streets. We especially want to provide a safe place for homeless veteran women to sleep. Please vote yes to be part of the solution, a solution where women and children can be safe, healing, and in a safe environment that includes supportive services to get back on their feet and become contributive members of society. El Cajon, let's do the right thing. All people deserve to have a safe place to sleep. Thank you. From Natasha, I am writing to urge you to vote yes on item 16. We want to see an emergency housing pilot program at Meridian Baptist Church, a safe location with extra space and supportive services on site. I care deeply about our community and those who reside here. We have a problem with homelessness in our city that is not being addressed. As a community, we need to start working to get our homeless residents off the street, starting with our city's most vulnerable population, homeless women and children. Please represent my opinion and cast your vote yes. From Anna, please provide the building of tiny houses for the homeless. A great country is determined by how it treats its most vulnerable. Thank you. From Cheryl Whitehouse, as an El Cajon resident, I urge you to vote yes on allowing zoning changes to implement the Amica sleeping cabins to protect our most vulnerable residents, especially women and children. From Lorena Young, I am writing to urge you to vote yes on item 16, allowing emergency housing and emergency sleeping cabins in the city of El Cajon. We want to see an emergency housing pilot program at Meridian Baptist Church, a safe location with extra space and supportive services on site. I care deeply about our community and those who reside here. We have a problem with homelessness in our city that is not being addressed. As a community, we need to start working to get our homeless residents off the street. I appreciate your support and compassion in helping those who truly need it. Thank you. The next from Amelia Romero. It is the same comment that was submitted previously. Seems like they were using a template letter. From Laura Ford, it's the same template letter. From Angela Rowe, I plead for the council to accept the tiny home village at Meridian Baptist Church. They do so much good in the community and would do this responsibly. From Kelly Scott, please support the Tiny Homes Project. Housing First allows a person to get back on their feet with dignity. From Robert Bird, thank you for the hard work you have done to make this emergency housing project possible. We look forward to working with Meridian Baptist Church and the greater community of El Cajon to make it a success and a model for other cities to do. From Pamela Yarberry, I'm writing to urge you to vote yes today regarding item 16, the zoning amendments to allow emergency housing and emergency sleeping cabins. And again, it's the same template. From Heather O'Connor, Ms. O'Connor used the same template letter. From Marley Wexler, please vote yes on item 16. We must help those who need housing and other help. Please help them. From Janet Putri, council members, I urge you to vote yes today on agenda item 16, the zoning amendments to allow the emergency pilot program at Meridian Baptist Church. I appreciate your support and compassion for our unsheltered neighbors. Thank you for your consideration. From Honor Bell, Ms. Bell used the same template letter that we heard. From Jared S., I am writing to encourage you to vote yes today regarding agenda item 16, regarding the zoning amendments to allow emergency housing and emergency sleeping cabins in El Cajon at Meridian Baptist Church. It's a good use of this available space. Mr. Marcus Belgrove writes, please vote yes on agenda item 16, the zoning amendments to allow emergency housing and sleeping cabins in the city of El Cajon. I would like to see the emergency housing pilot at Meridian Baptist Church. There is adequate safe space. From Margie Bradley, I support the tiny house movement. Miss Ellen Stone wrote, use the template letter. And the last comment is from John Brady. On behalf of the voices of our city choir, I would like to congratulate the city of El Cajon for being a leader in the county of innovative housing solutions like these tiny homes. Thank you for taking this step today. And that's the end of the comments, sir.
Thanks very much. I'd like to make a motion then to close public hearing.
Second.
Mayor Welzer vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
And Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great. Any further discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mayor Welzer vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote. And with your permission, sir, I will recite the title.
Please.
It reads, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Cajon adopting by reference Appendix O of the California Building Code, 2019 edition to provide for emergency housing in the City of El Cajon.
Sounds good. All right. We have two administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 17 is regarding the agreements with the San Diego Humane Society. And staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. At your meeting on August 11th, you directed staff to continue the negotiations on an animal services agreement and lease agreement between the city and the San Diego Humane Society. Those negotiations have concluded and the agreements are attached to your report. The scope of services, as outlined in the staff report, include animal sheltering at the El Cajon Animal Shelter, housing, medical care for stray domestic animals, animal field services, including responding to complaints generated by the public, enforcement of animal cruelty laws, domestic animal situations, picking up and caring for injured animals and addressing dangerous situations, patrolling and impounding dogs, and responding to and investigating those type of situations with barking dogs and other types of complaints. In addition, community engagement services are included. These would include various community events. The compensation included in the agreement is approximately $1 million per year. That's $1,008,000 per year payable to the Humane Society. There will also be, San Diego Humane Society will collect a $3 per animal fee brought in for every animal brought into the shelter. The fee will be remitted to the city, and we will use those fees for capital improvements of the facility as time goes on. The term of the agreement is for 5 years with standard termination clauses. The lease agreement for the actual facility itself is also attached, and the Humane Society is responsible for day-to-day maintenance of the facility, and the city will maintain responsibility for, as the previously mentioned, the capital improvements as well as utility expenses of the facility. The fiscal impact is the payment of the $1 million for the animal control, for the Humane Society to operate the facility, and staff sees this as a positive, as there are other considerations that make this very positive. It extends the animal shelter hours, additional animal control services throughout the city that we're currently not able to do. New community engagement programs that we really haven't been able to do, and more complete veterinary services, and very importantly, the moving of a police sergeant from the animal shelter back to the police department, as the shelter currently falls under the police department's administrative jurisdiction. So these have been discussed at the previous meeting. They have been included in the agreement for your review, And I would be happy to answer any questions along with members of the Humane Society, which are also here with us.
Thanks very much, Vince. Any questions? Seeing none, I will go on to open the public hearing and ask Angela to tell us if there have been any comments.
Yes, sir. We received 3 comments. The first one is from Josh Hirschmiller, and he writes, "My name is Josh Hirschmiller, and I am the feral cat specialist for East County Animal Rescue, a nonprofit dedicated to saving animal lives through spay and neuter. I have been working in your community since 1997 when I trapped my first family of cats on Johnson Avenue. In 2002, ECAR was officially founded, and since then we have helped thousands of cats in El Cajon through our grassroots effort to volunteers who are passionate about helping animals in need. Many of our volunteers have dedicated their lives to helping animals. As the only rescue in the area executing a trap, neuter, return program, we are most often found out on the streets of the community going to great lengths to spray and neuter animals. We have worked in partnership with the San Diego Humane Society since 2012 and are in strong support of the City of El Cajon, contracting with them for animal services. They, like us, are dedicated to saving animal lives and will be a fantastic service provider for the residents and animals in El Cajon." The second message is from Elizabeth Pecci, and she writes, "As a former employee of San Diego Humane Society and current kitten foster volunteer, I fully support the City of El Cajon contracting with San Diego Humane Society for animal services. I ask for your yes vote. SDHS has been helping animals and people in communities throughout San Diego for 140 years. The last comment is from Anna Gerhardt, and she writes, "Me and my family are residents of El Cajon and are strongly in favor of the City of El Cajon contracting with the San Diego County Humane Society and request a yes vote." And that's the end of the comments, sir.
Thank you. We don't need to close the public hearing on this, so it's open the discussion and or a motion. Seems like a positive thing, pretty open and shut. Does somebody like to make a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Mayor Wells, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick.
Yes.
And Council Member McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thanks, Angela. The last administrative report, item 18, is a CARES Business Grant Program update. And staff, will you please tell us about this?
There we go. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Let me just share my screen really quick. Let me bring up a presentation. Slideshow. Beginning. Bear with me just one moment. This. There we go. All right. So hi, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Ryan Villegas. I'm an analyst in the City Manager's Office. I'm going to be presenting a report on the conclusion of the CARES Business Grant, which finished at the end of last month. So as you may recall, on the July 14th meeting, the City Council authorized staff to use approximately $2.5 million in federal CARES funds, which were provided by the state and the county to fund the Business CARES program, which would go to help businesses in the city which were adversely affected by COVID-19. These funds needed to be spent by September 1st, and the program was open to both non-essential businesses as well as essential businesses as defined by the state of California, as well as restaurants. And then depending on the classification of the business, they were eligible to apply for award maximums of up to $30,000 for non-essentials, $15,000 for essentials, and then $10,000 for restaurants. And the city council also provided broad guidelines as far as what qualifications needed to be met for businesses to be eligible for the program. This included having an active business license on March 19th, which is the date of the governor's stay-at-home orders, to not have any zoning or code violations with the city, and then also to a commitment to remain open for the rest of the calendar year, among others. So following the meeting, staff opened the application period from July 15th through July 31st. And when this period was over, then staff reviewed the applications for completeness as well as to ensure that they met all the minimum qualifications. From this review, it was determined that there were several applications which did not meet the minimum qualifications. For example, with regard to business licenses, of the total applications, 62 of them did not have active business licenses on March 19th of this year. And so those businesses had either renewed or submitted their business licenses after that date. And then also I'd like to point out too that from that 62, there were 31 applications where the business license actually was started during that application period. And then there were 14 other applications which did not have a business license, or the business was located outside of the city limits, so they did not qualify. There were 6 applications where there were violations of some sort. 3 were building code violations where there was unpermitted construction, and then there were 3 tobacco violations where the business had sold tobacco to underage individuals. And then other applications were disqualified because they were either incomplete, or they were late, or there was some other discrepancy in the information that was provided. All right, so the qualifying applications move forward then to the business grant committee. Following the city council's recommendation, staff met with the East County Chamber of Commerce, who made recommendations on individuals to participate in the business grant committee. These are community and business leaders in El Cajon. And in the end, these individuals here are those that participated and volunteered their time to help make the final decision as far as who would get grant funding. We have Renee Arabo, Nori Barca, Christine Costa, Christy Cuero, and Mohammed Tuama, as well as Doug Williford. So in the end, 135 businesses were actually awarded funding. This includes 56 non-essential businesses, 57 essential businesses, as well as 21 restaurants. And I'm happy to report that checks were actually mailed out on August 18th, which is actually just over a month from when this whole program started. So it's great that this was able to happen so quickly. And I'd like to recognize and say thank you also to Tracy Yale and Vince DiMaggio in the city manager's office, as well as several other staff members who helped to make this program very successful. So with that, I'd like to offer if Mr. DiMaggio would like to add anything on the project.
Just to say, I think Ryan did a phenomenal job with this. He really took the lead on this project after the council established the guidelines that we were going to operate under, and as well as Tracy Yale in our office. So did a really fantastic job in a very, very short period of time in order to accommodate all of this. So very, very nicely done by Ryan.
And so we're happy to answer any questions if you do have any.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Vince. Council, any questions for either of them?
No. I have a question. There was one slide where you said that there were 31 businesses that had established a business license during the application period.
Yes.
Did they receive grants?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not, because the requirement was or the qualification was to have the business license be active at least on March 19th, because therefore the business wouldn't have known that there was going to be COVID, all these shutdowns. And so, really, truth be told, the business licenses should have been renewed at the very beginning of the year because they're active from January through December. And so, but the ones that did submit their new business licenses during that period did not qualify.
And there was also a situation in the news where a reporter showed the viewers a letter from one business who was denied a grant. What can you tell me more about that? I think they were already out of business, and wasn't there a stipulation that you had to be in business through the end of the year, or what's the rest of the story there?
Yeah, so with regard to that business, we were under the impression that they had actually closed in late July or early August. And so with that, they had been disqualified because, again, that requirement to remain open through the rest of the calendar year. And so by the time that the funds had been granted, then it was corrected. We did come to find out that they were actually planning to reopen. And so we did correct that. And so that business was ultimately funded.
Oh, so the business did get funds?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Always love to hear the rest of the story. There's always more to the story.
That's great. Any other questions? All right, let's, Angela, let's see if there's any public comments on this.
No comments, sir.
All right, I think we're down to hearing a motion from somebody.
So move.
Second.
Mayor Welch, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
This is, sorry, quick question. Can we get the contact info for the individuals, the 6 individuals that volunteered to review the applications, just so we can send a thank you note? I mean, they're all business owners and they have a lot to do, and I think it'd be nice to hear from the city to thank them for their time.
Yes, Councilmember Ortiz, we can do that for you.
Thank you.
You know, Phil, if everybody's up for this, we could send a letter from the entire council through the city.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Any objections to that? I didn't think so. Vince, would you take care of it from the whole city council?
Yes, we'll be happy to take care of that.
Thank you.
Good idea, Phil. All right, there are no commissioner reports on today's agenda. Item 19 is my activities report, which is as reported. Item 20 is the legislative report, and it is as reported. Vince, did you want to make any clarifications, or we're good?
I'd like to take a few minutes and go through a couple of things if I could. This is the end of the session report, and so there were quite a few things that happened, some quite surprising, others not so much. You have the report. It's approximately 4 pages, or actually 5 pages long. I'll just highlight a couple of them just in the interest of time. On page 2, there's AB 1506. This involves police use of force and investigations of officer-involved shootings. This did pass. It has not been signed yet by the governor, but what it does is it requires the state attorney general's office to assign an investigator to investigate any police officer involved shooting. It's unknown at this point whether the governor will sign it or not, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. On the same page, SB 731, this failed. This was proposing to remove the immunity of officers that were involved in officer-involved shootings or other officer-related interactions with suspects or members of the public. This did not pass, but it's likely, based upon everything we're hearing from the League of California Cities, that this will likely come back in some form or another next year. The one that is particularly applicable to this council, based upon hearings that we've had over the past year, is SB 793, which not only passed but has been signed by the governor. This outlaws flavored tobacco products. It's specifically targeted to flavored vaping products. It does exempt traditional pipe tobacco or loose tobacco that has flavoring. It also exempts hookah tobacco. But it does include menthol cigarettes and all of the flavored vaping products. So a pretty important piece of legislation, I think, in terms of the fight, I guess, to not attract young people into the vaping habit. On page 3, SB 1120, this would have required cities to ministerially allow, no CUP, no special zoning considerations, but ministerially allow a duplex in a low-density single-family zoning district, another mandate that would have come upon us in the planning realm. This did not pass. This was kind of a last-minute, late-at-night thing that just didn't, actually ran out of time. It came over from one chamber to the other, and they had to pass a number of things before the expiration of the session, which had already been set, and they didn't get to vote on this. So this may come back next year. Another important piece of legislation that had passed and is awaiting the governor's signature is SB 1383. This was heavily opposed, I would say, from the Chamber of Commerce and the League of California Cities. It reduces the employee, if you have an employee, it used to be that you had to grant family leave for any business that had 50 or more employees, and this reduced it down to 5. It also created a very, very easy and low threshold to bring lawsuits against the employer. So this is this is something that I think the governor will sign. It's been one of his kind of pet projects, so it's not likely he'll veto it. So we're just awaiting word on when the governor will sign it. But it was opposed strongly by a lot of public agencies, the league, and the business community. On page 4. This was kind of important based upon what we're seeing right now as we speak. AB 1659 would have created a $3 billion wildfire mitigation fund using a 96-cent surcharge on electricity bills. That failed to pass, interestingly enough. That would have helped mitigate the effects of wildfires, help address wildfires when they happen and prevent wildfires. So it didn't pass. AB 1159 on the same page. This deals with workers' compensation laws relative to COVID. It creates the rebuttable presumption for public safety and healthcare workers who contract COVID in the workplace. It also codifies the governor's executive orders relative to workers' compensation relative to COVID. AB 992, just below that, also on page 4. This actually amends the Brown Act so that if folks such as yourselves, elected officials, are communicating with a constituent on a social media platform, that does not violate the Brown Act to be constantly discussing that on an open web page or a discussion board where your fellow elected officials could be viewing that. That was originally thought to be discussing an item outside of a public meeting. If, for example, 2 of you are on the same discussion board and you're answering a question from a constituent and not another elected official, but the elected official is looking and watching it and reading this discussion. But this allows you to address your constituents on social media message platforms. And that is all of them, unless you had a question on one that I didn't mention.
No, not for me. Anybody else? Thanks, Vince.
Okay.
All right. There are no first readings of ordinance on today's agenda. Item 26 is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending Title 17. I would like to ask our city clerk to read this title. But first, Angela, are there any speaker cards for this item?
Mayor, before you move on to that, I think you had items 21 through 25 still. At least through 24 reports to city council members.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I skipped the page. All right. Council member activities reports. Gary Kendrick.
As reported.
Council member McClung.
As reported.
Council member Goebel.
As reported.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
They are as reported.
All right. There are no joint council member reports today. Item 25 is regarding the donations received for the animal shelter in the month of July. And do we need to discuss that, Morgan, or are we just
no.
$570.30 donation? There are no first readings of ordinance on today's agenda. Item 26, the second reading of adoption of an ordinance amending Title 17. I'd like to ask our city clerk to read this, but Angela, first are the speaker cards for this item?
Yes, sir. We received 7 comments for this. 3 of them were anonymous, and they were all in support of the item. The other 4, one is from Kelly Gray Masner, and she writes, I support emergency housing of tiny homes in El Cajon. The second comment is from Luisa Garcia. Please help support tiny homes for housing people with children. Great need out there. Next comment is from Herb Kelly. With the Amicus Board, I am asking the El Cajon City Council for their continued support for the temporary zoning change that will allow emergency housing shelters to be built or placed in the city of El Cajon. Your support will allow Amicus to construct a village of 6 emergency sleeping cabins of the Meridian Baptist Church campus. We will reach out to those in the El Cajon community that are the most vulnerable, homeless women and homeless women with children. This sleeping cabin will get people out of the dirt and into a safe, secure place to sleep and heal while waiting for permanent housing to be available. Thank you all for your courageous action. And the last comment was just arrived from Mary Case, and she writes, I support this recommendation and suggest that the ordinance extend to include a day center to replace services provided by Crisis House. Services should be allowed 7 days a week and include resources such as restrooms, showers, hygiene kits, mail, outgoing phone calls, charged cell phones, personal day storage. Point of access for housing to include case management services to provide shelter, diversion, conversations, and VICE SPDAT housing assessment to enter into the region-wide coordinated entry system through the Regional Task Force on the Homeless. It could also be a place to outstation other providers such as PCG and other employment services, HHSA, La Maestra, to others to offer mental health crisis intervention and referral at the same for substance abuse treatment services from McAllister, VOA, and others. This facility could be referral location for the Bridge Shelter. At night, this facility could provide weather-driven emergency shelter on cots for rain, cold, heat. Weather protocols have been established for this in the city of San Diego. And that's the end of the comments, sir.
Well, thanks. Angela, would you please recite the title of the ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance amending Title 17 zoning code of the El Cajon Municipal Code and adding a new section 17.225.1 to Chapter 17.225, allowing for emergency housing on select sites under specific criteria. That's the answer.
Okay. And we need a motion on this.
Yes.
So moved. Second.
Mayor Wells, your vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
And Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you. All right. There are no closed session items today. And this brings us to the adjournment, the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 8th day of September 2020, is adjourned till Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020 at 3:00 p.m. Thanks very much. See you then.